the choice has been taken away from us. This is not a choice, especially with alcoholism.
So I'm just going off kilter here, Rob, if you don't mind. But I am. I'll come back to the questions in a minute. Oh my God, I struggle so much. I mean, I'm just about to wrap up a business, Barbera's Botanical. So, Blether with Barbera, time, but the dog is Barbera. I've got a dog called Barbara. And he's a rescue. So, but I set up Blether with Barbera's Botanicals because of this thing that I've just told you about, basically, me wanting to help people deal with stuff in a way that is not what they're programmed to be told. This is how you deal with it. Because I knew that you could fix yourself or your pet. You didn't take the dog to the vet all the time, it gets ill, etc. But it's having to be wrapped up because it's just impossible to get people to, even though the reviews that I have is, I thought it was a load of rubbish, and then I gave it to myself or I gave it to my dog, and it works perfectly brilliant. But still people go, I don't think so.
Right.
Oh, I'm just going to keep eating this processed food all the time. And I was going to go to doctors and going to get the stuff that makes me ill, and they're going to moan.
Yeah.
That stuff the doctor gives me makes me ill, and now I've got to take 20 other tablets to counteract the side effects. And you just can't get people, can you? Nope. It's such an uphill battle, isn't it, to get people to accept what you're doing.
Yeah. You ask them a simple question. Have you ever been to the doctors, is give you a tablet or a pill for your disease or ailment? You've gone home, you've taken the pill, it's cured the illness or disease, and you never have taken the medication again? And the answer is no. The answer is never in the history of the pharmaceutical companies is that ever happened. I'm not talking about antibiotics, even them are really bad, but we take them, you can heal a lot quicker with other stuff from the grocery store or the local farmer's market and stuff. But yeah, it's impossible. It's not. When the tobacco companies back in the 40s and 50s bought their first food company because tobacco was going downhill with all the cancer scares, and they bought the biggest food company in America. That's when everything starts to change. You know, you look at a piece of Warburton's and a piece of bread or wrist. One's yellow, one's pure white. The pure white is the healthy one. The yellow one, it's always yellow and sweet. Everything's got, the biggest killer in the world is sugar. And everything's got sugar in it over here. It's crazy. Yep. Oh, so you go, so what did you rather do? Come here for 3 months, get cured of everything, build your business up, or get a better job, get your wife back and have an amazing life, or go to the doctor and get a pill and try there. And they're like, yeah, I'm gonna be safe. Safe? What do you mean? You're putting shit in your body that you have no idea what's going in your body, or the side effects and everything, and you think it's the safe choice? Yeah, I've stopped speaking at places for that. I used to do a lot of conferences. I'm speaking, God bless them, to ignorant people. Like, you know, when we talk about alcoholics are born and drug addicts are made, you know, my sponsor, I'm not talking about your sponsor, I'm talking about real medical advice and research. We spend $1.6 million over the years researching this stuff. Can you believe what your guy who keeps relapsing talks about? That if you go to a meeting, it'll one day, shut up. That's not going to help. These will never keep you sober. It's the stuff you do, and it doesn't involve large, you know, cases of Suboxone. Oh, I've been sober now for 10 years. No, 6 years. Really? That's awesome, man. Well, I still take Suboxone. Suboxone is a taper. It means when you're coming off heroin, you take this taper for about 3 and 4 weeks. If you're still taking Suboxone after a year, guess what? You're still using and you're still an addict.
No.
Oh, off my soapbox now. Oh, baby.
I like it. Well, you know, I do completely agree. I mean, I had a terrible problem with alcohol. I mean, I did use recreational drugs for a while in my younger days. And I know it was from trauma because I needed to get away from stuff. And I found drink, and then I found clubs. Hacienda, back to all of those clubs you might have heard of. I was there. And I continued to do that for a few years. Now that I can look back in hindsight and go, oh, I did that. I have got this part of my brain that is easily addicted to things. But I know it's because I've just been told I'm probably neurodivergent, and I've got this thing where I just get passionate about something. But I know that it was, the entry into that was trauma. But I now can, and people say to me, oh, I don't know, you can have a drink if you were addicted. Well, I went through a very long period where I never had any drink, and I don't do recreational drugs anymore. But I can, because I've healed, because I'm now a survivor rather than the victim, and I've processed everything. I can openly talk about childhood abuse and stuff, and it doesn't upset me that I can actually go once. I go out 3 times a year, Rob, and it's to the local Louvre Club because it's a tiny village I live in, and we have a drink, and that's it. That's me. I've got bottles of gin. In fact, I've probably got about 12 bottles of gin in the house. I don't drink.
Yeah.
I've sort of dealt with the triggers for the alcoholism and the other stuff. And I think that, whereas you've mentioned this earlier, a lot of people go, oh, no, it's not that. You know, it's not because I'm filling my belly with crap food that I've got heart problems. It's because my dad had heart problems. Instead of admitting what it is, really. And I get that, because it's sometimes trauma is traumatic to deal with. It's really difficult, isn't it, to process it when you're an adult, because you've learned over the decades to go, well, I'll just lock that away in a little box at back and it's all fine.
And the other thing is as well, you've got to look at is, back in our day, I'm a lot older than you, 15 years, but back in our day, they normalized the childhood trauma. Like this is what happens on council estates most of the time. Mum and dad worked all week. They drop us off, or me off, at their friends overnight while they went on the piss Friday night, get up, hungover, have breakfast, come pick me up. This couple used to look after about 6 or 7 kids every Friday. When my mum and dad's car and everyone else's car pulled out the driveway, we had to play what was called a run around naked game. And the adults would be undressed and we'd be naked, run around and tickle. I didn't know that was sexual abuse, because it was normalized. And then when I finally said to my mom, what's going on here? I got, remember the skulls back in their wooden shoes, skulls? I got hit with that a couple of times and sent up to bed.
God.
When the priest molested me, I did the same, got hit and I got sent. It's like it's normalized. And today, you know, people still think that childhood trauma is a crash or a divorce or a scar or, you know, somebody, you know, bullying. It is, but it's all of the above intensely with somebody else. Alcoholics are more sensitive to trauma than drug addicts, for instance, because of the hypothalamus, basal ganglion, the amygdala, 3 parts of the brain that differ. And the more knowledge with the neuroscience coming out, the quicker you can fully recover from all that crap that you're going through. But you need somebody who knows what they're doing. We even have software now. We call it, I have 4 companies. It's a Breathbox Studio, and it's a subliminal messaging software. It's unbelievable, because the conscious brain is today, and the subconscious brain is all this shit that you've been carrying. But we never deal with that stuff. I say to people, have you ever hit a deer? Because we have deer in our yard every day. Have you ever hit a deer but not died? What happens to the deer is very, very important. The deer will lay still on the floor for a couple of seconds. Then it will jump to its feet. What it does next is a miracle. It will shake violently for several seconds, and it'll run on. That shaking violently has just shooken off all that trauma it's been through. So tomorrow, same time, might be hit by the same car. Who knows? Human beings don't do that. They stuff it down in the subconscious brain, and all of a sudden it explodes. And if you don't deal with that, you'll do something crazy, always.
No. Right. I'm going to just get back on track, if you don't mind, because I will just go off on a kilter, because I know what my brain's like. So at your lowest point, who were you?
A piece of shit. Nobody. Didn't exist. Embarrassment to my family and my wife. You know, just this imposter syndrome, this tramp, this vagrant, all of the above. You know, everything had been stripped away, which the most important thing you can strip away from somebody is their identity. And unfortunately, I got taught to lie at an early age by my mom. When people call the house, you know, where do you live? If you ever say the risk, you'll be in big trouble. You know, say, can't we live on the posh houses? And, you know, so that was it. I mean, everything. I was not a father, because my eldest daughter disowned me. So yeah, I was the crap on the floor. That's how I can only describe it. You know, it's the lowest of the low.
It's very telling that I love to talk to anybody, but I particularly love talking to survivors, Rob, because you get a much more open discussion about terrible stuff that lots of us have gone through. Lots of us out of that lots will never talk about anything ever. And when we do survive and we come through the other end, we not only have empowered ourselves to become stronger and confident and assured, but we also empower everybody else around us as well, because it's infectious, isn't it? Because sometimes you might not even realize that your best friend of 35 years went through exactly what you went through.
Yeah.
And then until you go, well, I'm going to, like you've just done, candidly talking about stuff that is upsetting, it can be. And then they go, oh, do you know, I haven't told you this, but, and then you have a knock-on effect, don't you? And before you know it, you've got a structure of people that are all supporting each other in a way that you're never going to get when you pretend that everything's okay. Do you know that bloke that you saw pub, or like my old friends that went from just clubbing to complete drug addictions and destroyed their own lives. And they say, yeah, but I love it. That's why I do it. I don't think that's the case. I think you've lost control. Well, how were you out of it? Well, because I sought help. I went and got help because I knew I couldn't continue because I was going to die. Well, thanks for that. You say addiction isn't about drinking or drugs. You might have touched on this. So what is it really about then, addiction?
So alcoholics, we've traced it back to a fetus level. Hypothalamus, basal ganglia, and the amygdala, the hypothalamus being the key because it hijacks the brain. It's our survival part of the brain. As drug addiction is the addictive personality, where the basal ganglia comes into play. So we do something often enough that then we become to depend on it, and they become, all of a sudden you're this drug addict. 4% of people that come to us who are women, who are soccer mums, started their drug addiction, heroin, crack cocaine in the doctor's office when they be put on pain pills for the back. So that's how we know the difference. So alcoholics are born this way. So a lot of people don't know that you can't drink yourself into becoming an alcoholic, but you can take enough drugs to become a drug addict. The only problem with alcohol is the label. Johnny around the corner, he drinks 2 bottles a day. He's an alcoholic. Well, the truth of the matter is alcoholism is the only self-diagnosed illness in the world. 10 DUIs do not make an alcoholic, 10 warnings from the doctor. The guy next door drinks more than it's nothing to do with that. So drug addiction, they both show up the same, they're both just as nasty, but you can be cured from addiction, that you can be fully cured, 100% cured. Yeah. When we reform brain patterns and stuff like that, whereas alcoholics are a little bit more difficult. Again, people don't know this just because of lack of knowledge. One of the reasons I started standing up some 13, 14 years ago and fighting against the medical system is because of that. I was sick to death of watching people die inside the rooms of AA and more outside the rooms of AA, because I knew that the brain wasn't hardwired. And I tell you how I come to this before we did all the research on it. I'm outside an off license on liquor store, 5 o'clock in the morning. Look, it's a corner shop, so he sells newspapers and stuff. Can't open at 5 a.m. Definitely can't sell liquor at 5 a.m., but he does to me because he knows the state. I'm outside, it's snowing, I got a vest on, string vest, shorts, flip-flops. It's snowing and I'm sweating profusely. I can't really talk because I'm that bad in the DTs. And he opens the door, I slide in, he closes the door behind him. And for whatever reason, and I think it was to teach me that the brain, alcoholism is not somebody who drinks too much alcohol. As I got to the counter and put my $10 and my head was banging, and he put the bottle on the counter, and this is what happened. Hey, buddy, headaches went, shakes went, sweating stopped, great mood overnight, not even opened the cap, just held the bottle. It was like slow motion to me. I looked at the shopkeeper, I looked back and I went, holy shit, it's not the alcohol. And that's when we come up with the phrase many years later that alcohol has 1% to do with alcoholism, and the same with any other addiction. It's not the problem. It was my solution at the time. I never had a drinking problem. I always had a thinking problem.
I get that. I've recently read, I don't know the names of the medical papers, but I read recently that addiction isn't so much as it used to be in the days. People go, oh, they're just a smackheads or whatever, just an alky. There's no help for them. Just leave them and, into gutter. And now the thinking is actually addiction is a psychological symptom of an undealt with
100%,
issue.
100%.
And it's just as a symptom we've got when we got an upset belly. Yeah. Or we've got liver failure. But people struggle. I try to talk to people about this and they really struggle to get their head around. And it's that old indoctrination thing, aren't they? The smackhead, the gluey, the alky. And now that I've come through it and I do more of these and I speak to more people, I'm thinking, well, actually, there is a lot of truth behind this, because you just doing that and saying you got your hand on the ball. I remember the times when all I needed to do is just get hold of the ecstasy tablets.
Yep.
For the Saturday night, and the anxiety that I had, thinking, oh my God, I need this, and then you get them, and it's the day before, and you're like, right, okay, that's fine. I know that I'm going to have a really good Saturday night now.
Well, we did some research on that. What we did is we had 10 friends that were always relapsing, and we asked them, Leighton, next time you relapse, can you not go underground? Can you give us a call? We'll pick you up. We'll buy your head and chest. We'll take you to the dealer or the liquor store off license. We'll buy the stuff for you. We'll drive you back home when you go back in the house. And that's it. We'll buy the stuff for you. And all of them said, yeah. So God forbid if you ever relapse, call. But they wasn't ready to get clean and sober. So we would get calls. And what would happen is we'll pick them up. They were most alcoholic, and 2 was drug addicts. We drive into the store or the drug dealer's house, and they'd go in, pick it up, get back in the car, and we drive home again. And the most intoxicating period of all of that was the drive to the drug dealer or the drive to the liquor store. That was the most intoxicating part, where the brain and the chest were up. The brain was all lit up, ready to go. It's like we can show in other scientific research we've shown with drugs is I can show a heroin addict a packet of heroin and his brain changes straight away. Right. And his heartbeat gets faster. It's a freaking picture, like alcohol, just the picture or the vision. It's not actually in the hand, but his brain still changes. You go, oh my God, and the dopamine starts flying, and serotonin starts flying, and they get all excited and ready to go. It's the craziest thing. So if that's the case, it's not about the substance, it becomes about the brain, right? Why does my basal ganglia, which is our repetition thing of the brain, so it needs to, we need to, let's say we're driving a car, we need to, take lessons for so many times before we pass our test, and it becomes a working part of the brain when we don't have to think about it. It's the same thing with anything. The basal ganglia is a repetition strength and confirms of any action that we do, good or bad. And that's how drug addicts and stuff like that get into this cycle where it becomes a working part of the mind. When it's a working part of the mind, it's a knee-jerk reaction. The choice has been taken away from us. So if you go to the doctor and he does the tap on your knee, you can't stop that. It's the same with our testing trials. It's the same action with our addiction. Is the choice has been taken away from us. This is not a choice, especially with alcoholism. It's not a choice anymore. And the idea is when you go through all the stuff that we do here, we have the change of neural pathways, and we have some kind of spiritual thing, universe, Uncle Jimmy, whatever. When we go through that period, your DNA changes. Well, why is that important? You're not the same guy as you used to be. We guarantee that, otherwise we'll give you your money back. 100% give you your money back. But that's what needs to happen. Anything else is a Band-Aid. Anybody else is a plaster over the wound. It's okay for a few days or weeks, but sooner or later that plaster is going to come off and you'll relapse and go back again. We guarantee permanent recovery. But again, homelessness, almost dying, drinking every day, or permanent recovery of my children back in a great job. I don't know. Can I think about that? I'm like, what? You're thinking about that? The choice is easy, but not with alcoholics. The choice is hard.
It's a better the devil you know syndrome, I call it. I can't criticize anybody. There's a amount of times that I had the opportunity to fix me when I was younger, and I was like, I don't think so. Because I knew that was going to be traumatic, because I knew what was the driver, really. Although it was subconscious, it was buried. I always used to say, I love it. That's why I go out all the time. I love it. That's why I drink all the time. So I get that. I'm intrigued, though. Sort of alcoholics are born, drug addicts are made. Yeah. Through, obviously, whatever they start off that trigger thing. So is that genetics? Is it because your mum might have been, so it's genetics? Yes. If your mum and your dad were alcoholics, then you're likely to be born alcoholic.
It can skip generations, but 100% hereditary, 100%.
Really?
So if you come to me and go, I think I'm an alcoholic, and I ask them two questions. Is there any alcoholism in your family? No. Okay. When you take the first drink, can you stop? No. You're abusing alcohol. Stop. You're too old for this shit. Stop. But yeah, that's where the define comes, is the labeling thrown around, but it is definitely hereditary. It will skip generations, my brother and sister, but you can always trace it back. And the only thing people get is when they try and trace it back, and they go, well, I don't know, mum said that he wasn't an alcoholic, but he liked to drink. That's alcoholism back in the day, buddy. Yeah. My grandfather liked to drink. When I was tracing it back and I got into my memories, he was drunk every day.
Yeah.
But like you said, because I enjoy it. Yeah. Okay.
That's interesting as well. So just a quick question on this. We talked, and there's a lot of trauma that pushes people into something that's, just to soothe the mind. With your line of work and your history and experience, do you ever get any alcoholics or drug addicts that have never gone through anything traumatic, even if it's a divorce or
never?
So they've always been through something that is traumatic to them subjectively.
Well, everybody has childhood trauma. I don't care if you grew up in a $50 million house. You went to everybody has childhood trauma, but we brush it off. And by delving with the software and the brain spotting we do and the NLP and the somatic experience, all these tools that we use, you pull it out, and obviously the devastation's there. But the brain is very clever at hiding trauma, because if it fed you all the trauma into the conscious brain, we'd go insane. So it's very clever. Everybody suffers from childhood trauma. And then the ones that go back and we work on, you know, they found they've turned, because it's been part of the conscious brain, they've turned to alcohol and drugs to numb that out. But everybody does. If I've never met anybody that hasn't, once you get really deep into it, because it's not a car crash or a divorce, like I keep saying. It's a lot deeper than that.
Wow. I mean, that's blown my mind, that, because obviously from a person that's got sexual abuse as a boy and all, similar to you, it sounds like, very similar, working class and all of those things, and an abandoned dad and things. So, yeah, wow, that's blown my mind. I mean, there's been a lot of people that might be watching this that might go, well, damn it, I'm going to have to deal with this thing, because it does sometimes, it pops up and you do have to deal with it eventually. Right. So what was it, that moment, Rob, you realised you had to change or you'd die?